Hi, my name is Jeff Fassbinder with Align, and today we're building the Trex 700N DFC Nitro helicopter. This is the super combo version, and we've built the rotor head system as well as the auto rotation unit and the clutch belt to this point. In stage 3 here of the actual assembly process, we're going to actually be building the frame. If you want to watch along to build your helicopter, please feel free. Also consult your manual, as this is a visual build, and it enables you to basically see the actual helicopter being built as it shows within your manual. So if you stay tuned here, let's get started and see what it is we need to actually assemble our helicopter. Alright, first off we're going to pull out our carbon frames. We'll need these for the assembly process. This is the 700N DFC. There's a left and right side. So we'll go ahead and open these up. Okay. It's nice. Let's go ahead and open this side up. Alright, there's a couple other bags that we're going to need to open for this process. This is going to be the 700N DFC. This contains our bearing blocks, screws, and so forth. So we'll go ahead and pull this out. Go ahead and pull out the bearing blocks so you can see that. Lower frame. Our engine mount area, screws, hardware, washers, they're all right here. Our rudder assembly that goes in the frame here. Again, the balls are loose. We'll go ahead and take care of that. And all the screws are inserted inside of the frame spacers and things like this for you to easily reference. Alright, when looking at the frame here, you'll notice that there's bearings inserted on the frame. If you look at your manual, you'll notice that the wider part of the bearing faces the outside of the frame. You'll also notice, when looking at the frame, that there's an etching facing the outside of the frame there. On one side, you can see that. And again, that faces outside. So this bearing right here, the larger part of the bearing faces out. So let's get started on our build here. And what we need. We also one other port we need to pull out is the 700N DFC. Okay, so got a few bags open here all at one time. A lot of pieces coming together. There's our front radio tray there. Alright, so let's get our standoffs. This is bag number 700N DFC12A. I'll go ahead and put these screws right here. And you notice you got quite a few things that are out in the open here. Again, you want to be in an area where you can work without being disrupted as far as what's going on in your work environment. And having a towel as provided in the kit is a great thing to have. Enables us to see all of our parts and make sure that we don't lose anything in the build process. So again, make sure we have all the washers out of the bag. Alright. Okay. Where we start is on the right side of the frame. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in the spacers and things like that as needed. And these are to hold things like our servos and stuff like this. And we'll need these screws here for that. And they're self-tapping. It's a self-tapping screw for this insert here. Okay, let's put that in. Let's get it flush, mount that flush, tight. Again, self-tapping, snug, that's it. You don't need to overdo it. Bearings facing out. Now we'll get our standoff here. All four of these standoffs are the same height here. The main difference you'll notice though on the rear or front is that the one on the front utilizes a grub screw. The ones on the back have a traditional Allen bolt. So we'll go ahead and do that. And that keys in right here behind this slot here in the frame. And before I do that, let's go ahead and put a little Loctite on there. All right, so let's secure that. Oops. Okay, got that taken care of. Now, looking at the right of the frame here, there's a few other little details such as our governor sensor. Again, I pulled this out of the electronics component bag. And you can see that there's the sensor itself here that sticks off to the side here. We're going to show you how that mounts to the frame right now. Alright, moving on with the build of the frame here, we're inserting the actual sensor for the clutch bell. And the sensor is mounted with the use of some self-tapping screws here that are provided in a kit. We're going to go ahead and apply these to this spacer, if you will. Go ahead and put that on, start that. Again, this is going on the right frame. I'll do this one here. I'm just getting those started. And then we're going to put it inside of the frame, right here. Goes right here. And when you see it though, when this is mounted to the frame, the screws go through on the backside. The piece right here, the sensor is facing right here this way. It's facing out like that. So we're going to go ahead and get two more self-tapping screws. Let's go through the frame here. Started. One more. Snug that up. Okay. Now that sensor's going to be pointing right down to your clutch bell right there. So we'll go ahead and tighten it up on the back side now, since we started them off the helicopter. Now we'll just tighten those up. we'll go ahead and put on our motor mount here. One of our motor mounts. And right now I'm not going to use Loctite. I'm just going to put this on just for the parts, so we keep our screws and everything in order. I'm just going to put that on here. And you'll notice that the nut faces downward, or I should say the Allen bolt there, towards the bottom of the frame, and that holds onto the base plate, the carbon base plate there. So we'll go ahead and, again, just snug those up, because we'll need to put on our engine later on. Alright, we're going to put in our post here. We need a little Loctite. This is for the front post for keeping our canopy spaced. We'll need one of these rubber inserts. Push that through. And let's put this on the front here. Okay. And if you want to make sure that's secure, again, you can use your balling pliers. Just put that right there and hold on to it. Just give it a little tightening right there. And the next thing we need to do on the right side of the frame is insert the rudder, this arm here, which basically puts the push rod to the tail. Go ahead and we'll Loctite these down, these balls, now rather than wait till we put it on the helicopter, so it's easier to work on. Okay. Tighten that up. Alright, so we got those two balls. We also need to do this center post here. I want to make sure that that's Loctited as well. And I put it right in the hole there because I'm right against the bearing. So I just want to make sure I don't get any Loctite on my bearing, so I went ahead and put it in the hole first. Alright, snug that down. Okay. Now we have two Allen screws here that will bolt to the frame. Again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and just put the Loctite on this piece here, which drives our push rod to the tail from the push rod that's mounted to the rotor servo in the front of the frame assembly here. So go ahead and do that. Wipe the excess, push that through, and there that goes, just like that there. So that's how that goes. Go ahead and put our screws in. Alright, so here's how our right side of the frame's looking right now. Have our inserts. Now what we need to do is get our tank here, our fuel tank. Go ahead and pop this out. And that's part number 700N And what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece here and put this in the frame. So we'll go ahead and insert that into the frame here. Press that in. Okay. Alright. It's looking really nice. Alright, we've got our frame here. We just started putting some of the components on, such as the sensor for our governor, as well as the standoff. We mentioned that we want it the furthest forward. There's 4 hole locations on the insert. The first 2 go to the actual frame here. In front of that, the 2 holes mount the actual sensor itself. On the back, on the tail slider control here, or should have tail control arm, we've inserted the screws here, Loctite to them. We've also Loctited the balls on the arm, as well as inside of the aluminum block there. So that's been done. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up yet another bag. There's a lot of bags open on this particular build due to the fact that there's a lot of things needed for the assemble process here. But right now we're bringing out the lower frame brace, as well as the side frame stiffeners here. Let's go in the front. So we'll utilize those. And again, that was bag 700N DFC. Alright, so let's get started. Let's pull out the bearing blocks here, just so something we're all really familiar with. Got our upper and lower bearing blocks. Check for those screws. Alright, on the bearing blocks, the dome faces upward or out on the top bearing block, and on the bottom downward. So just so you know, that's how that faces there. We'll go ahead and get our screws with some Loctite. Get these started here. Just a little bit of Loctite. Start that. Okay. Let's do it again. Again, it's really straightforward. Again, with the manual. If you have any questions about what we're doing, make sure you reference it. As far as this part of the process, you're looking at page 9 within your assembly manual. And if you go through the illustrations as they show the manual, I think you'll find this really easy build. Very pleasant, fun, rewarding build here, because once we get done, we're going to have one of the, if not the best flying nitro machine out there on the market, 700N DFC. So I can't wait to finish this one up here so we can take this out flying and get some actual flying video. Alright, so I just put in my bearing blocks, and in addition to that, we're going to go ahead and pull out the lower blocks here. They go on the frame. I've left the screws attached for now on the bearing blocks there, so we'll pull them out so we don't have a bunch of stuff rolling around on the table. So go ahead and pull these out, pull that aside. On the front of the frame here, on the right frame in particular, we're going to have a plate that attaches to the front here. This frame piece here, so you can see it. Goes onto the front, bearing block goes, I shouldn't say bearing block, actually that's for your landing gear. But that goes in, mounts up like this, and acts as a doubler on the lower frame. So let me go ahead and get some Loctite on these screws here. We'll push these through the front of the frame. Alright. And we'll get that block for our landing gear in place. Start that. And we've got a lot of bags open right now, but it's really manageable due to the fact that they all are for the frame assembly as we're doing right now. So, get that snugged up a little bit. Make sure you get the alignment on the top here so it doesn't go all the way down. Alright, so we have that standoff with a grub screw. Alright, let's go and leave that there. Alright, so there'll be a grub screw and that'll have a standoff there. So what I'm going to do, let me go ahead and grab that front tray here. Get this lined up. And I'm going to drive that grub screw in place. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay. There we are. So you see why I left that a little loose there, is so that way I could get this grub screw going through the frame. Get that like so. Put Loctite on that, and then we'll use this. Put a little bit of Loctite here, and we'll go ahead and tighten that down. I'll use my balling pliers to snug that up. Alright. So that's the right side here. And then we also have a stiffener for the rear of the frame. Acts to protect the frame there. Go ahead and do that like so. And let's put some Loctite on these screws here. Alright, so now we got our bearing, or I should say the lower mounts for our landing gear. We're going to be mounting up the base plate. We're going to be preparing our fuel tank right now. But this is kind of what you can see here is what we got. We're going to go ahead and put these screws up front here. Got a couple screws that we can go ahead and install to keep that front nose moving around. Go ahead and put this on here. Mount that up. Okay. Whoop. Alright. Tighten that down. So there's a total of 3 right up front there. But get these all snugged up. Alright. It's looking like a full frame there. Alright, if you have any questions at this point, make sure you check out your manual. Manual has a number of tips and helpful visuals to help you set up your frame. We're going to be pulling out some components that we've been using or that we have pre-assembled already, such as the clutch bell. So we'll go ahead and push this into play here. Put that into the frame. And we'll go ahead and Loctite a couple of these screws here. There are socket screws again. Push that in. Okay. Alright. Okay, now our clutch bell is in there. You can see it from the back side. Get your clutch bell going. Get your front of your radio tray there, if you will. And we got the lower supports here for our carbon base plate as well as our landing gear. And let's go ahead and get the tank assembled. So let's go put that aside real briefly. And let's get the tank assembled here before we go any further. Alright. This is a 700N DFC. We have a clunk, nipple, a couple O-rings there, also a fuel cutoff, depending on which way, and a fuel filter, a couple things there. So we'll go ahead and put on the clunk here, and get this in our tank. Always check your tanks, make sure there's nothing inside of them. Usually they're fine, but just always double check that. And let's go ahead and check this piece too. And it's clean without any debris or anything like that as far as the plastic. Stick that in there. Okay, we're doing the fuel tank assembly for our nitro powered Trex 700N here, and we are putting together the tank. Right here we have the clunk line, we have the nipple here, and then the grommet that goes here basically. We're going to go ahead and insert this in the tank. You notice that I've already pushed this piece back onto the nipple itself, and then I'm going to just go ahead and walk this in. And boom. Make sure that that's nice and flush. Make sure it'll move around freely. And that's it for the tank assembly. We put the tank together. It also includes fuel line for use with your helicopter. So we'll go ahead and we can put that right here. And then we'll insert that into the frame. Let's see here. Okay, it's a very snug fit above the tank. You just push that in, get it over the dimple there, and that'll get your tank inserted. We had already inserted the insulator from the carbon frame, and we slid the tank in, so you have that in place. Alright, so that's the right side of our frame. And now I'm going to go ahead and pull the screws off of here. to the upper and lower bearing block. Front spacer here, which we'll go ahead and insert into this plastic, I should say rubber dampener for your canopy. That goes through there, so we'll be utilizing that. And before I go any further though, there are these grommets that were in with your fuel tank. Those go right here, right inside of the frame. You can push those in. That's for running fuel line through there. If you were to be running fuel line through, you can just push those in with the Allen wrench. Let's go right there. And that's to prevent you from chafing the fuel line going through your frame. So on both sides, just a rather large hole. You can just insert the O-ring there. Again, that's if you're running the fuel line through your frame. Right there you can do it, and that way you're not chafing the fuel line itself. Alright, that's where that goes. Let's go ahead and pull the rest of these screws off here. So, if you're just tuning in, we've started the process of the frame assembly. We worked on the right side of the frame, installing the upper and lower bearing blocks, the clutch bell, the fuel tank, quick fuel tank assembly. We've also done the tail pulley, mounted the front radio tray here, and we're about to mount the left side of the frame. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and get this. Again, the bearing is facing outward. The larger portion is pressed into the frame. The smaller radius is inside of the frame. So we're going to go ahead and, again, before we put this on though, we're going to need to put the tank insulator here, there. Keeps it from the tank moving around, and also helps stabilize the tank and keep it from vibration within the frame. Alright, that there. Slides on. We have some frame doubler or stiffeners, if you will, that go on the sides. And there's only one way it could go on the back. It's like a laying down J, if you will. So that'll go on the back of the frame here. Let's go ahead and get those screws with Loctite on them. Alright, now let's get the front frame stiffener. We'll go here. Okay, two of these screws here. These are the socket screws again. Going right in. Alright. Okay, now what we need to do is we're going to line up the upper and lower bearing blocks here. Get the clutch bell lined up. Okay, one thing that we should do is put on this standoff on the tail here. So go ahead and insert that back here, and let's put that standoff in place. And this we can, again, just snug it up. Okay. Those are snugged up. Got our standoffs in. Also, we need this grub screw here for the standoff in the front. So let's go ahead and do that. That's right here. It goes into the front of the radio tray there. And we'll stick that through there. Alright, leave some meat out so we can hook in this, our standoff for our canopy. Use our ball length plier. Let's give that snug down just a little bit. There we go. And let's go ahead and do the front 3 screws here, as well as that spacer for your canopy. Protect your canopy. Okay. Again, if you're building at home, I recommend having music, maybe a beverage or something like that. You know, want to be in a relaxing environment, easy for you to concentrate on what you're doing. If you got a table or something with that you can lay out the towel that's provided in your kit, makes it a lot easier. Again, all these screws out and about, and you know, I don't have to worry about losing them or anything like that. If I need to stop, I can do so very easily, and just, you know, go take care of whatever I need to take care of, come back, and everything's in place, and I don't have to worry about losing screws and so forth. So makes it a lot easier. Okay, let's go ahead and finish up these screws, and then we'll do the insert there for our servo. Clutch bell area here. Also, you can use your power tools and things like that. Just make sure you don't torque down with them. You can use them to get most of your bolts close to being snug, and then you do the final torquing by hand. I would recommend that, so that way you don't have to overdrive or strip your screws because you torque down on them too tightly. Alright. 2 more screws here for the frame with the bearing blocks and the clutch bell and so forth. There. See that? It's nice. There you go. It's, you know, we already got a rotor head complete and so forth, so it's actually further along than you might think. I mean, all we need to do is do the tail section and install our motor here. So I mean, we're pretty far along. We still got a ways to go, but I mean, it's definitely very easy to put together. As you can see, time-wise is minimal as far as the assembly process. So I mean, and it's very straightforward. Again, we're going to put this insert here. This is for our servo. Just like we did on the right hand side, we push that into the frame, and then we're going to use a self-tapping screw here. And your servo is screwed directly into that, so there's no need for any further washers or anything like that. It's self-tapping, it goes right in. Snug that up. Now you get your area for your servos. Alright, we have almost everything. Here we go. We have one more piece here, this front dampener to keep our canopy from rubbing the frame assembly. Let's get some Loctite here on this. Okay. And we'll put that right here, in front of the frame. Again, let's go ahead and put that engine mount. Put this on. Again, I'm not going to use Loctite just yet, due to the fact that we'll be needing to get to this area when we get our engine out. So right now, let's just get the mechanics all set up. Alright, there's our frame. Again, we got our things for our fuel pinch, and there are a couple different types depending if we're using a pressurized system, and also the fuel filter here. We're going to put that aside there because that's when we're doing our engine. We also have the clips for our canopy. You can put those aside, or you can put them on if you so choose. But yeah, here's the gist of the frame assembly so far. And our next process will be mounting servos and our control system here that goes inside the frame. We're going to go ahead and mount this up. Again, all these balls here are loose currently, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and apply Loctite to all these balls here and get this inserted in the frame. And one step closer. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, we're getting back to the frame assembly here. Before I get started on the next segment, which would require the engine installation, I want to go ahead and take care of the cyclic control function and get this mounted in the frame. I've already went ahead and mounted the balls, and if you consult your manual, you'll note that there's the inner ball and the outer ball. You want to be on the inner ball on these arms here, and that's position A. And same on the A arm here. You want to be on the inner arm for this build with your new 700N DFC. So let's go ahead and get this installed here in the frame. I have a number of shims. There's basically 4 shims and a couple of washers. We'll go ahead and get this inserted in the frame. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. And let's get this. There's spacers on the side here of each side. There's little spacers here. Go ahead and get this in the frame here. Put that through. Actually, before I stick this in order to make life even easier, and these spacers here, the larger spacers, what I'll go ahead and do is I'm going to pop on these links here. There's links that I pre-assembled from the inner dimension here is 54 millimeters. I'm going to go ahead and pop on these links now. Snap these on. Again, A always faces away from the ball, so I want to do that. Pop these on. Again, all these balls that are on the control system here have all been Loctited and tightened. I did that in order to save time, but basically you need to Loctite all those balls and tighten those up. Alright, so now you have those 2 push rods already pre-assembled there. I have assembled them. I've done that. I've actually opened up pack prior to starting the video. I opened up pack 700NZ and also 700NZ7A, and I went ahead and assembled all the push rods and ball links in accord to the manual. So I've already assembled those. You may want to do that. That way later on in the build, as you progress, rather than, you know, rushing or anything like that, you can do those at your leisure. You can just pull those out. They're actually in with the bag that you get your Loctite and a bunch of other accessories, such as your blade holder, and that's an 700 FLZ. So I pulled that out prior to the build, assembled those per the manual, and that way I have those ready for when I'm actually assembling my helicopter. Alright, so now we're going to take those thicker spacers, we're going to go ahead and put those on the frame. And then we have these arms here. We're going to go ahead and stick these on. And again, you have shims. We have 4 shims here. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to place a shim on this side, and then you want to check the amount of protrusion of that bar going through. You want it to sit pretty much flush, okay, with the bearings themselves that are actually inserted there. And then it has 2 smaller washers. A small washer goes into the nut, the hex nut there, and we'll go ahead and insert this, Loctite it as well. So a little on there, tighten that up. Alright, put that back through. Again, washer with the small Allen hex screw here. That's part of this assembly. Comes all assembled, but no Loctite applied. So that's why I said I went ahead and did that off camera. That way we can speed the process when I'm showing you the actual assembly. But we're going to go ahead and insert that now. Reason being, it's just easier to get in there right now. And that way when we get our servo install, we can make sure that make life a lot simpler for us in the build process. As far as page, this is page 14 when you're inserting this particular part of the build. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and center this. Actually, I'm just looking for the channel right now. Okay. And you'll want to adjust this per your swash plate once you're once you get everything dialed in. Make sure your phasing is set correctly to the main shaft alignment. So, alright, now that we have that in place, we don't have any end play here. Again, I pre-assembled the links, these outer links here. I need 4 to go to the servo. Whoops. Let's go ahead and put that sideways. There's 4. I'll get you the inner measurement here, but I went ahead and pre-assembled those. And those from the ball link, the inside ball link, to here is 75 millimeters. So from those 2 points on the inside, it's 75 millimeters on your ball links. All 4 of these have been built the same way. Again, I'm going to go ahead and apply these. Alright. A facing out. Alright. Okay. So we have that there. And what we're going to want to do now is get the engine mounted up, the clutch valve, get all that set up here. So I'm going to go ahead and let's pull this fuel tubing out of the way. Okay, pull those aside. We only have a few screws left here. There's not too many screws actually left at all. Some pieces. So let's get the engine out and let's get that onto the engine block. Again, I'm using the 91. Pull this out. Alright. Let's see what size we need here. Okay, I'm just going to tighten my glow plug real quick. Okay, that's done. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull the fan assembly out, pull the nut off here, leaving the bottom washer there. And then we're going to go ahead and tighten this down. Make sure that these are loose, these Allen screws here on the hub, flywheel. Make sure that's loose. Get that on. Screw that down. If you're having a tight fit, because there is no threads in here, what you can do is insert just a little bit of grease here. So that'll slide on. Just put a little bit of grease. And again, make sure that this collar here is loose. Okay. And what we're going to do is I'm going to get this nut on here. There's no threads, remember. There's no threads. The flywheel. And we're going to get a Allen wrench. Okay. Alright, continuing. We have the nut applied to the fan hub. And you can see that the hub has not gone all the way down. Alright, we're getting the engine and the fan assembly installed onto our engine here. Right now, the fan hub screws here on the bottom, on the shaft here, if you will, the flywheel, are loose. And we're going to tighten this down in order to press the fan assembly onto the motor, the engine. So go ahead and push that, sock that down. And by doing this without the threads being present on the flywheel, it makes the fan more concentric and enables the fan to run truer, and also minimizes vibration in your helicopter. So we'll get that tightened down. Okay, so that socks it down to the washer that's on the engine. So once we do that, it's socked down there. We're going to go ahead and tighten the flywheel to the crankshaft of the engine. Alright, notice I didn't use any Loctite or anything like that. When your engine gets hot, all the Loctite's going to do is loosen up and it can actually work as a lubricant against you. So I didn't use any Loctite here. Again, on the fan housing here and the flywheel. So go ahead and do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to back off that nut. And I'll just go down and I'll put it on lightly. Back that off. And now I'm going to tighten this. Make sure that it gets fully tightened now. That way it's level. Okay. So, alright. So, that's it for the fan there. Okay. Alright, so that's the fan. And if you're, want to make sure that it's on there, you can crank that down. But we found that by leaving that, cracking it loose, and then tightening up these lower cinch screws, that it actually runs truer. So anyway, just food for thought there. We're going to go ahead and put on the clutch. Again, it has actually locking screws here, lock washers. And here on this, I will go ahead and put a drop of Loctite in addition to the lock washer. Go ahead and pop that in. Okay. Make sure you get them true there. Make sure that that's in there. All right, here we go. Okay, now we get our fan housing here, or shroud I should say. Pull this apart a little bit. And let's see. Pull that off. Okay. And so that's the fan shroud on your engine here. The engine onto the engine mount that will slide up into the frame here. Depending on what engine you're using, it may require you to have the ability to move the carburetor to the side in order to tighten the bolts for your engine. So just to let you know that you may want to have it loose, your clutch, or excuse me, the carburetor loose, so that way when you're doing this you can get to those screws and it'd be a lot easier on you to tighten them up. If you want to make a quick T-wrench here, we can go like this just to tighten these up, make sure they're snug. Okay. Put our carburetor back to center, make sure it's 90. Make sure that that is good there. Okay, tighten it up a little more. Okay, alright, let's do the other side. I'm going to pull these screws here on the frame. So if this is your newest nitro to your fleet, I think you're going to like this. It's really light very sleek profile. A lot of the features that you find here make the helicopter have a really good appeal, both visually and in flight performance. Alright, let's go ahead and tap. So whether you're using a 91, 105, or 120, the engine installation is very similar. You know, you're going to mount your engine to the engine mount, as you see me doing now. You can get your fan shroud, carburetor, get the flywheel mounted as well as your clutch. You want to get all that stuff secure. So that's your engine mounted to the engine mount, and then we're going to slide this into the frame. I'm going to take the frame, slide this in here, just get the frame right there, and we'll push this forward. Here we go. Just get the frame. I tighten these up here in the front. You may have to open them just a tad, just to make it a little easier for it to slide in the frame here. So we'll go ahead and open that up just a little bit. Okay. Pull this off. I'm going to go ahead and pull these bolts off actually real quick, just so I can spread that front of the frame there. Make it a little easier. Alright. There we go. It'll drop right in. Now, I've done that. Push the fan shroud up. Okay. Got that mounted in the back here. Okay, we got that. Let's go ahead and get the engine mounted. It's the heaviest part here. We'll Loctite these screws. Okay. And since I'm on this side of the frame, I'm going to go ahead and do the fan shroud, which has two hex bolts that we're driving in here. Alright, flipping it over, we have two more on this side plus the two on the frame here for the fan shroud. So total of 4 hex screws, and we'll be on our way. The next part we'll be doing is the servo installation. Be working on that. check everything. Okay. And two more. The last two of the frame here. And we'll check the main shaft, make sure everything's lined up correctly in 90. If there's any binding or anything, we can always loosen up the screws of the frame and then get it so that the bearings and the are running true there. But they should be running true, but we can make sure of that by setting the frame down on the 90 as it shows you in the manual, making sure that it sits flat. Just stick that in there, just make sure. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Alright, so now what we need to do is we'll go ahead and install the main shaft, the rotor head there. Go ahead and put this away. Alright, so I'm going to pull up the install the auto hub here. And we'll get our rotor head. Go ahead and slide this in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to make sure that I'm lining up here. Again, I don't want to force the J-bolt in. I don't want to force that in. I want it to just basically go in. If I need to turn it a little bit, that's fine. But if it's going at an extreme angle or it's cocked down, like you see that right there, it's going off at an angle, this screw here. So what I need to do is, before I start driving and putting pressure on the upper bearing block, we'll back that out. I'm not going any further with that. And I'm going to remove one of these shims. Now I have a thick and thin currently on the top here. So I'm going to get rid of the thin and I'm going to leave the a little bit thicker one. This is like the second of the thinnest. It's the second thinnest one. I'm going to stick that back in there. And then I'm going to try again. I'm going to look at that. And I'm going to get this screw here. And it slides right in. Now we'll check the up and down play here. And tighten that up. And then we're good. Okay. As far as this here, again, we'll use the main shaft and this to check the phasing alignment, and that screw, or should I say grub screw, that's right here can be used for adjusting this. So we'll go ahead and loosen that up, and then I'll get that where I want it to be, and then I'll tighten this down. Okay, that's for our phase alignment. As far as the ball links, again, I went ahead and built all the ball links that were required for the build ahead of time, so that way it makes it easier when we're doing the build process. You can see I'm using these, and they are as per the manual. From the inner ball on both sides here of the ball link, these are at 34 34.5, give or take, right there. Should be a good starting point there. If you need to make any adjustment, you'll be pretty close to on the money there. On the ball links themselves, due to the fact that we have these arms here, we want to make sure that, again, the A is facing away from the ball link when we install them. Go ahead and insert this here. Okay, check this side. This side's good. Push those on. A, again, facing away from the ball. Alright, so we got our control rods all hooked up here. We have our swash plate, our rotor system attached to the frame assembly. We have our engine installed, clutch valve assembly installed, and we have just a few more items here. Some leftover shims. Again, we have the fuel filter there. So we're pretty well along the way. And now the next thing we'll need to do is bring out the servos.